Welcome to the Leader Mentality Show with Rob Clemens. We are live at the Myrtle Beach Business Center today, and we are going to be talking a little bit about business development, growth in your business, and all those wonderful things. I've got a great guest on with me who I'm going to introduce in just 1 minute, but I'm going to keep teasing this for a second. I do want to talk about business owners, people who are in leadership positions, but not just that. You could be in any industry that you're trying to thrive in. And a lot of times we have a little success on the front end and you almost stop and think you've got the magic pill and everything's going to be good. But for the best companies, you always need to be evolving to thrive in your industry and to continue to grow so that other people don't overtake you. And so today I've got a great guest on. Her name is Natasha Hanna from Hanna Law. And she's here to talk about just that amongst a number of other things. So welcome to the show, Natasha.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to see you, and it's good to be here today.
Well, it's great to have you. And I'm glad that you were able to come because I know you've had a crazy busy schedule. How have things been on the attorney front lately?
Absolutely insane. I know some people say that the economy is going down, not here in Myrtle Beach, and certainly not in my profession as an attorney. We are super busy.
Right.
And we love it.
Oh, wow. Well, do you practice all types of things? Are you doing like real estate law and everything else, or what do you stay busiest with?
Yeah, I kind of market myself as a problem solver.
Problem solver, I like it.
Solver.
Yeah.
So on one side of the house, we have a litigation department, and on the other side of the house, we have a real estate. And when I say real estate, I mean closings. We do residential closings, commercial closings, and even business closings, restaurants, things of that nature. So that's the real estate side of the house. That's super, super busy. We have not slowed down, even though interest rates have gone up. Yeah. We are doing just as many closings these days as we were, say, 2 years ago.
That's amazing. It's a testament to the Myrtle Beach market. And I get this question a lot. In my position, sometimes I have people from out of state just checking in with me and saying, how are things going? And really in Myrtle Beach, we have been in a great little bubble of an area. I don't mean a housing bubble. I mean, we're in a bubble where it feels like we're protected because there's so much interest for people moving to the area, right?
Everybody wants to come here. It doesn't matter if it's California, Ohio, our northern states, our northern friends are coming down.
Yeah.
And we are welcoming them all with open arms. And so real estate's one side of the house.
Yeah.
The other side of the house is litigation. And with more people come more problems. And we try to market ourselves to say, you know, if you've got some kind of problem, call me. And if I can't figure it out, I'll send you to somebody that I know, trust, and love.
Gotcha.
So that's what we do. But litigation, it could be anything from breach of contracts, personal injury. We even do some criminal defense. I worked for a firm for many years, and they did a lot of high-profile criminal cases. So we still do more mid to lower level criminal cases.
But here in Myrtle Beach, where nobody does anything wrong, it's got to be hard on business. No, I'm kidding with you. Yeah. Well, that's good. It's good to hear that everything's going strong. And also, I know you're a Coastal Carolina person, so I'm going to circle back around to that.
Yes, I am.
So speaking of Myrtle Beach, I don't know. I just joined the Chamber of Commerce not too long ago, and you know, there's the Chamber of Commerce Visit Myrtle Beach, and they give you so much cool stuff. I got to tell you, I just wanted to share this because I got this when I became a member, and it's got the "You Belong at the Beach," and I thought this was so great. It has so many different references to things you can do here. Just Pirates Voyage, Legends in Concert. Do you do all this stuff as a local?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I love that. "You Belong at the Beach" really resonates with me because I'm not originally from here. I'm from Virginia.
Okay, all right.
And when I was 5 years old, my mama started bringing me here, and it was just she and I, daughter of a single mom, and she and I would come here, and we'd come to the beach, and so we came here every single year. So when I graduated from high school, went to college somewhere else, but then I came back to Myrtle Beach, and I have never left it.
Wow, okay.
And yes, I still do as many tourist things as I possibly can.
Yeah.
In fact, good timing, you didn't know this, but just this last week, we did our quarterly social with my office staff.
Okay.
And guess where we went?
Oh,
the Boulevard.
Are you serious? To the Boulevard. Well, here, look, I might need to give this to you so you'll have some new tips for your next thing.
I'll take that. I appreciate that so much.
That's awesome.
I love that picture.
I think it's a great picture, and it's great representation of Myrtle Beach. So a lot of good things coming out of our great chambers of commerce. And just I think the city's done such a good job in recent years of planning and trying to plan for the future. So definitely
great
cool.
Job.
And two, not to spoil alert too much about this, but I know you're big on Coastal Carolina University.
Absolutely.
And you're still involved with Coastal. Tell me what you do over at Coastal Carolina.
Well, currently I serve as the vice chair of the Board of Trustees, and we are charged with the responsibility of oversight with the university.
Okay.
And, I've been on the board since, I think, 2010. Some may say that's a long time, but there's others who've reigned much longer than I have.
Okay.
And I just have a tremendous passion for our university, bringing people here, bringing students here and teaching them and educating them. And it's a wonderful place to be, to go to school and to be involved in.
Shines up always.
Yeah, shines up.
I tell you what, I love the Coastal Carolina angle, and I think it's really great because you can look at some of these students who are coming in and say, oh, I remember myself coming from out of state and now going to Coastal Carolina, and then hopefully staying in the area. There's a whole lot of topics that I think of on this. I heard one time, and you might have better data than me, that Coastal Carolina's enrollment is something like 50% out of state. Have you heard these numbers?
That's about accurate. It wavers from each year, but it's usually about a 50-50.
About 50-50, and that's a very high number of out-of-staters, but I think it's a beautiful thing because a lot of these parents come down to see their students who are in Myrtle Beach, right? In Conway, technically, is where Coastal is. But they come down and they go, this Myrtle Beach place is pretty cool.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden they start looking at moving down here. And that gives you more real estate closings to do. And the cycle keeps going. So I think you've probably seen a little bit of that happening, right?
Absolutely. You hit the nail on the head. It's a huge economy driver. Even though our job as a public institution of South Carolina that gets funding from South Carolina, our job is to educate students in South Carolina.
Yeah.
But we also recognize the fact that there's many out-of-state students that want to come here because of programs that we offer, and we are an absolutely amazing institution. We have an incredible business program. Our marine science department is, exceptional across the state, very competitive. And so we have all these wonderful things to offer. So we do have sometimes it's been as low as in the 40%. But we bring these students here, and you're right, the next thing that happens is their parents come down. So we've got tourism dollars. And then their parents come down and say, maybe I should buy a house for my daughter to live in while she's living here.
And you go to Carolina Bay's real estate.
Yes, exactly. And they buy a house from you, and then or you build it. And then, they come here, and then they get second homes, and then the parents eventually move and retire here. And then guess what happens? The aunts come, the uncles come. And then, so it's a huge, huge economy driver, not just for visiting, but for long term. I mean, I'm the prime example. I moved here and went to college and never left and started these businesses. And, I often tell that to our South Carolina legislature when they ask us about our in-state, out-of-state population.
The in-state, out-of-state, and the value of both, right?
Yes.
But my biggest thing is I love seeing students having jobs to go to after graduating Coastal and still being able to stay in the area and work here and thrive here. And I think it's getting better and better every year. So very cool stuff. Well, are you a sports fan?
I am.
Okay, so you get to go to, have you been to some of the football games recently? Did you get to go?
Oh, yeah? We try not to miss a football game. And of course, we were in Omaha in 2016, and that was truly
so good.
One of the most incredible experiences for our family.
Yeah. Well, and of course, she's referencing the great baseball team and Woody Woodall.
Woody.
Yeah, he's there. He's still working at Coastal, isn't he? He came back?
He worked in philanthropy, yes.
Yeah. So very cool to see just people thriving like that. And the other thing I'll say is I saw this thing once that they said when we have a football game here, a Coastal Carolina football game in humble Conway, South Carolina, all of a sudden the amount of out-of-towners who are coming here to experience that, and like you said, spending tax dollars and getting rooms to stay in and buying dinner out here, that school does a lot for us. So, keep fighting the good fight over there with Coastal.
Thank you. You're right. App State, that's a big driver. And then Army, we had a record attendance.
Yeah.
And there's a new hotel that's opening up right across the street. I think it's opening this month. So,
okay, good.
Yeah, so there's going to be more places for people to stay near campus, and it's just going to get better and better.
At a football game, Natasha, are you the reserve fan, or are you up there, really getting into it?
Probably a little bit of both. I like the social aspect of college sports as much as I do cheering on the team. So
right on.
Both, yeah.
Well, we go to the game, so we'll have to catch up one of these times and go cheer on some Coastal.
Yeah, I love that.
Well, great stuff. let's get into a little bit about how you got into the industry you're in. And if you would, kind of take us back to maybe high school you and how you got to where you're at right now.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'm from Radford, Virginia, which is a T90 small town near Virginia Tech, Radford University. So I grew up there. Most of my entire family is still there. And when I was in high school, I had two aspirations, one of which I'm kind of grateful I didn't follow, but was to be a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader. Yeah, and then the other one was to be a lawyer. So I
went the way.
Yeah, I clearly was not qualified to be a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader, but thankfully the University of South Carolina let me into law school, and here I am.
Now I must do a quick commercial break here. Are you still a Dallas fan, or was that just about the cheerleader thing?
No, actually I am a Dallas fan.
Oh,
we just went to Frisco and went to the indoor practice facility, and I was just enthused about it now as I was back then.
Okay, well, all right. Well, we will continue the interview just the same, but I am a Washington fan, so this could be a point of discussion. What are we going to do? But no, so back to you decided to go the attorney route.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
So when I was in high school, I really wanted to be an attorney. I didn't make the best choices in life as far as I went to East Tennessee State for my first year and then transferred to Coastal Carolina University. And quite honestly, I made fun and working a priority over my grades, and I didn't get serious about my education until probably my junior year. So I had a little bit of setback. Didn't let that stop me, and graduated from Coastal, and then became a paralegal for 6 years. Went back to school after I graduated from Coastal, went to Horry Georgetown Technical College and got my paralegal degree there. So another great college here within our area.
Absolutely. Great tech school.
It is. And so I went there, got my paralegal degree, worked for a lawyer for 6 years, and then went back to law school at the University of South Carolina. Graduated in 2002 and have been practicing ever since.
Wow.
I love it.
That's amazing, like to watch their trajectory. So one thing I like about what you said a minute ago is you talk about that freshman and sophomore experience where maybe if you look back on it, you'd say, well, maybe I could have dug in a little bit harder. I would suggest you didn't need to in this way. You're doing great. And that's part of your story, right? But I feel like it's important to talk about this because I remember what it was like to be a Coastal Carolina student or a student of any university. And we'd see that small percentage of students who had it all figured out. You know, in their freshman year, they knew exactly what degree they wanted. By their sophomore year, they had lined up an internship. And then by their senior year, with their 4.0 GPA, they've gone off and got this great job. Yeah. But more typically, I find the path is about exploration and figuring out what you're good at and what you like to do. And so a lot of times when I'm speaking to coastal students or any students, I'm saying, hey, look, find that path and don't let yourself think that you got to your senior year without an internship or without the 4.0 GPA, that means you can't succeed. So I think it's important to tell that story. It's much more common than the story of the person who just everything ran swimmingly throughout college, right?
Yeah, so I appreciate you asking me that question. I used to actually be kind of embarrassed to share the story. But now that, you know, I've actually done something in my life and I've accomplished my goals, I kind of use it as part of my story that maybe to help others.
I think that's really great.
Thank you.
Let me throw a couple of stats at you too that I think are kind of interesting. And the reason I know these stats, I recently went on Carolina Business Review, and and these are stats I didn't even use on there, but they were interesting from a college perspective because I'm a big proponent of 4-year college. I'm also a proponent of 2-year college, and I'm also a proponent of hit the job force if you're ready to get into the job force right out of high school. So I saw this stat, and I think it's a great one for people to know. Stats are what they are. Sometimes you'll find varying studies, but I think they're all a little bit true in this way. So they took out of 100 students, this is what the Be Proud, Be Pro initiative, it's actually Be Pro, Be Proud initiative was. But they said that out of 100 students in high school, 88 would graduate. And these are the numbers that we found. Out of that 88, somewhere around 56% would end up going to college and pursuing that degree. And then out of that, somewhere around 38% would actually graduate college. And then out of that 38, as you drill down, only 22% actually went to college, got a degree, and then went into a field that used that degree. I thought that was pretty interesting. So you're talking about 100 high school students, the ones that go to college, get the degree, and getting to a field that needed that degree, 22%. There's a value in telling that story. It means that you can be successful even if you didn't go to college. It means that sometimes you go to college and it doesn't guarantee you're going to be successful. So a lot of it comes down to some of the things we're going to talk about today, growing in the business world, how you do it. And a lot of it will come down to perseverance, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Good stuff.
Yeah. Some of those are disappointing numbers because, at Coastal, for example, if you start Coastal, we want to see you finish it.
Absolutely.
Whether it takes 3 years or 6 years, we want to see it to fruition. But you're right. Some people may not be ready for college, may not have the personality or the drive to want to go to college. So we need to make sure that people, whatever path they choose, they go through and follow that path to fruition.
Agree. I think it's about, that exploration we were just talking about. I think sometimes the exploration is college right for me or not? Once you get into college, maximizing it and finding out what you're good at. So anyway, we could talk about that for a long time, but one of the things I'm excited about is when you and I were talking about this pre-show, you talked a little bit about some of the successes of your business, and you talked about how a business can continue to thrive and evolve and adapt. So you had some tips for us, and our viewers of the show, whether you're a business owner or I like to think that at any level of an industry, it's always about your adaptation personally and as a business sometimes. So let's talk a little bit about growing in the business world and what tips you've had as a successful business person.
Okay, happy to do that. So for me personally, my journey to becoming what you would call successful, sometimes I look at myself in the mirror and I think, am I successful? How do I measure that? So for me, I measure it by the goals I've obtained. So I always have a 1 year, a 3 year, and a 5 year plan. Every December, I kind of hunker down after the holidays, between Christmas and New Year's, and I say, okay, what's my 1 year plan? Let me revisit my 3 and my 5 year plan. Okay. So for me, success means reaching those goals.
I love that. And by the way, if you reach that goal at 1 year, you're on target. What if you don't quite get to that goal? How do you reevaluate?
Oh, that happens.
Yeah.
You reevaluate every year and say, okay, I'm 70% here, I'm 90% here. You just put it on next year's goal. Okay. And it keeps and your goals may change. You may say, you know what, I don't want to go that direction anymore.
Yeah, I got it. So this is part of the adaptation you talked about. Okay, cool.
Yes. So for me, being successful is reaching each goal. And so some of the things that I've looked back on my life is you've got to have these constant 5 things in your plan in order to reach those goals and be successful.
Okay, cool. Well, let's jump in. I'm fully interested here. This is great.
So, one of the most important things to me is to, always be who you are. Don't try to emulate somebody else. Don't try to imitate somebody else. I've made those mistakes my whole entire life. Growing up in a small town, I certainly wasn't a child of a silver spoon family, and half the time I didn't even know which spoon to use. So, right. But I've always had people that have been around me that have offered their assistance and their guidance, and I try to mirror that and help the next person. But be who you are. For me, I'm clearly a girl. I like to wear dresses and high heels, but I also like to throw a fishing line and drive a 4-wheeler too. And I'm not going to make apologies for that, right? So I'm going to be who I am. When I first started practicing law, I was trying to find myself, like, who am I going to be? What kind of lawyer am I going to be? How do I act in the courtroom? How do I act with clients? And I worked for 3 superstar attorneys, Tommy Britton, Morgan Martin, and George Hearn of Hearn, Britton, and Martin. And so I had a lot of experience trying cases with Morgan Martin. And do you know him? He's from Conway.
I haven't met him personally, but I know of him.
He's great.
Yeah.
He's really one of the smartest attorneys I know. But he's from Conway, and he kind of talks like this. And he's got this amazing swagger, and everybody loves him, and the jury loves him, and he talks like this. So I had watched him for so many trials. We tried arson cases together, and we worked on murder cases and all these big high-profile cases, and had a lot of experience with him in the courtroom. So when I went to try my first trial, I try to be like my
You're swaggering around.
I swaggered up to that podium, and I trying to emulate him.
Yeah.
And it was horrible. I mean, I absolutely failed at it.
Right.
And, I threw my arm up on the podium and I started cross-examining that doctor, and it didn't work. And I lost my first jury trial.
Wow.
And it was devastating to me, and I cried all the way back to the office. And, Morgan was there to offer me some great wisdom and tell me that I started believing my own stuff a little too much. Yeah. But I did a great job, and I needed to try cases in order to, I needed to lose cases to learn from that as much as winning cases.
No doubt about it. Well, your best successes usually are going to follow a failure, in my opinion.
Yes.
And so it's really cool that you say that story like that. And I believe this is a great tip for everybody, whether you're talking about dating, whether you're talking about going to an interview.
Yourself,
yes, you got to be authentic, because when people get to know you well enough, and it might be in just 5 minutes of a jury trial, it might be anything, they'll start to sniff out what's real and what's not, and where you're comfortable. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Be honest, be true to yourself.
All right, cool.
I would say that's the first thing.
It's a great tip.
Yeah. Okay. Probably the next best thing is, stand up for who you are and don't back down. And what I mean by that is I kind of use my mom as an example. I often refer to her because she truly is somebody who's mentored me, who's pushed me, prayed for me. And I've learned from her, she was a trailblazer in the 70s. And she came from a large family of 9, small town. And most did not go to college. So she went to community college. And she chose to be an electrician. Oh. Which was highly unusual in the 70s for a female electrician, right? So she got her job at a foundry at a steel mill, and she was one of the only females that worked at that foundry. The only other females were answering the phones or, getting coffee for somebody at the front. So she became an electrician and just really blazed the trails. And but it was met with men who didn't like her, who used profanity around her, who did everything they could to run her out. And she decided to, stand up to who she was. She didn't like profanity, she told them. She just really stood her place. So she is an example to me of, just be who you are. Yeah. And stand up for what you believe in, and then, good things will happen.
There's a powerful thing here, and I must ask you now, you said your mom, not a profanity person. Have you found yourself into adulthood still restraining your words around your parents? I know I've been there.
Absolutely.
As a son of a preacher, to this day, you don't hear curse words coming out of my mouth. Not that I'm that big at cursing anyway, but yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I still respect my mom. I still feel like I'm 16 sometimes.
Right.
And it's all about respect. Yes.
Yeah, that's something that the college kids need to know as well. Yes. I always pictured Coastal Carolina students coming up through the ranks might be listening. Yeah. You're going to do that when you're 50 too, guys. Anyway, so
absolutely.
Very cool. Another thing I like about that is I heard this thing one time, and they talked about that a lot of people think that the key to being successful is emulating others. And that kind of goes back to the first thing, but it's like sometimes not just being you, but being the best version of you and not apologizing for that. That's going to attract certain people to your brand. And if your brand is unique enough, that's the key to all great business. So I love that step. So I'm all about the trailblazer stuff. And you said your mom was a trailblazer and she had to kind of occasionally unapologetically bash through. Tell me a little bit about, did she ever tell you about how she navigated that though, or any stories about that?
She did. So it was always important to my mother not to be looked at as a girl.
Yeah.
She wanted to be looked at as somebody that was an excellent electrician who worked hard. She had a good work ethic. But because she was a female trailblazer as an electrician in a steel mill, she had to come about with ways to conquer that. Okay. And so some of the things they did, I mentioned earlier about profanity. They'd use profanity around her just to kind of test her. Yeah. But they would also steal her lunch. So, the cafeteria refrigerator, everybody puts their lunch in with their name on it. No, Mom would go in every night. She'd work the night shift from 12 until 8 in the morning. And they would steal her lunch every night. And she got tired of it. Nobody would fess up. So, a lot of people have memories of baking brownies with their mom or, making pasta with their nonna or whatever. Yeah. Well, I also had memories of baking brownies with my mom, but it was for her work. Okay. So she got tired of it. So she had to come up with a solution to stand up for herself, not back down, and figure out how to become an equal with these guys. Okay. So we made X-Lax brownies, what those are. And so, needless to say, it solved the problem. So she packed her lunch, she made her brownies, somebody stole it, and she knew that night exactly who the culprit was. I was about to say, running down from 50 feet in the air, running to the bathroom every hour. So, she came up with a creative way to solve her problem.
That's
Guess
genius.
What? It worked.
By the way, everybody who's like, it wasn't me, and then now we know who did it. Yeah. The funny part is when you first started telling that story, I thought you were going to say she brought some brownies to the guys to win them over. Not quite.
She had tried niceness to begin with, and she just had to say, I'm going to stand up for myself, and it worked because they gained a tremendous amount of respect for her. Hey. She worked there for a number of years, and she became one of the guys. There were even times where the news would call and want to do interviews with her because she was the only girl, and she said absolutely not. I'm just like they are. So anyway,
Man, I love that.
That's where I learned.
And she really was a trailblazer, because if you look at it now, there are more women getting into the construction industry.
Yes.
But it's just a recent thing, it feels like. So she was really doing this going back a little way. So cool stuff. All right, well, let's keep going. This is awesome.
Thanks. Okay, another lesson I would say: if you make bad choices or life hands you lemons, make limoncello.
Limoncello.
Yeah.
Okay, I like the twist here on the limoncello. Okay.
Yeah, and I take full accountability for myself, even though I had a good solid foundation at home. Grew up in a small town where there wasn't a lot of bad stuff going on. I came to Myrtle Beach and I made some bad choices in life, whether it was not studying enough, hanging out with the wrong crowd, or being the wrong crowd, whichever way you want to look at it. Yeah. And I would work so much because I'd never seen that kind of money. Back then, 30 years ago, $100 a night waiting tables, or $125 in cash. I'd never seen anything like that.
Yeah.
So I neglected my priorities, did not study the way that I should have. So my point is, if you make bad choices in yourself, figure out a way to get by them. Make a plan, make a goal. Because even if you've made mistakes, even if you didn't make the right choices, you can always turn it around, because I'm absolutely living proof of that.
Yeah, that's great stuff. And I think that as a business, we can apply that, and as a personal person, we can apply it.
Absolutely.
Sometimes a business might make a wrong turn. Oh, we were going to go do this one product line, and it didn't work out. But it doesn't mean you cash in the chips. You might just see that, well, that didn't work, so this is our next best thing we can do.
Absolutely. You step back, reevaluate, and keep going with the plan.
Wow, that's really cool. Yeah. Well, it's good that you did that and that you saw that early in life. And I feel like you have two options once you have what some people might call a failure. One of them is that you could go in and let that dictate that, okay, I just shouldn't try again, or I should just let myself fail. The other way is to say, what did I do wrong? How can I do better? And where are we going from here? So that's a great tip for anybody. Love it. Okay.
Absolutely. All right. You want another one?
I do. Give me a couple more. I think we're on a streak.
Okay. So another thing that's big for me is always put your family first, but don't ever use them as an excuse. Tommy Britton gave me that great advice when I was starting out. In other words, I don't recall ever missing like an awards assembly, an event at my children's school. I have two boys. They're 17 and 19. We're getting ready to be empty nesters.
Oh, I couldn't tell if that was a prayer of happiness or sadness.
No, it's sadness for sure. It's sadness. I've got two amazing boys, Tate and Chase. They're 20 and 18, and 20 and 18. They both just had birthdays last month.
Okay, good.
So
Geminis.
Yes, Clemson and the Citadel. So
all right.
We'll have lots of times on our hands. But hopefully, I guess we'll know in 10 years when I interview my kids. But hopefully, I've done a pretty good life balance.
Yes.
Where I'm at the baseball field, I'm at the golf tournaments. But work is a priority. You've got to make work a priority without letting your clients know. For example, if I've got something where I need to be, and like court will always take precedence because you can't.
Yeah, you have to do
it. But if you can work your client meetings around those things, you don't ever say, "Oh, I can't because I've got an awards assembly." You say, "You know what? This time works better for me tomorrow between 12 and 2. So never use your family as an excuse, but always put them first.
It's interesting because this note is very important when you compare it to the last note that you had. And what I mean is sometimes we can always improve from things that we have maybe not done so well with before, but you also can't get time back. And especially when you talk about family, and it could be your kids, it could be your parents. I wish I had spent more time with somebody. And so I do appreciate that. And I think that most people that are your customers or fans or whatever can respect that. That makes you more relatable when you can make that simple call. I was at a event one year, and a very successful salesperson had told me that they actually grew in sales with applying that thing that you talked about, which is putting the family first. And they said they thought they had to work 7 days a week to keep their clients happy. And they realized that when they could go to the kids' baseball game and still answer that phone call from a client maybe and just say, "Hey, I'm at my kids' softball game or baseball."
Yeah.
Right? Okay,
yeah,
guilty,
I'm
right?
guilty.
Yeah. But it's a beautiful thing because they said, "Wow, you still took my call and I really appreciate it." And absolutely, spend time with your family. When can we get back together? That shows care. It also shows that you care about your family, and that's relatable.
Yeah, and I think my family knows that there's certain obligations in order to be able to provide the lifestyle we have. So I think they understand the balance. I'm still guilty of, you got that phone right there and you checking the text messages.
Right.
So I get lectured all the time about that. So I'm still an evolving work in progress.
Oh, but that's okay. Yeah. We all have our next level. Maybe that's on the goal for next year.
Yes.
A little less time looking at the screen, but
that one stays on the 1-year plan.
I
Get better at disconnecting from your phone.
Well, in all seriousness, one thing that I do think is a challenge for all people, and I don't think the challenge is going to go away. I think we need to learn to adapt to it better, is that people do expect information faster than ever, right? Yeah. And if you zoom back even 20 years ago, people might leave a message for you and understand they might not hear back from you for a day. Nowadays, if they don't hear back within an hour, sometimes people are upset. So it's a challenge, and I think we all have to navigate. But I think it's important still, like you said, keep the family first, though, but know how to navigate the waters of keeping your clients happy. So good stuff. I like it. Yeah.
Thanks. All right. So my last bit of advice is find a hero or a shero.
Okay.
A shero,
like
which is a female hero. Isn't that
okay.
Cool? I heard that term.
Nice.
Didn't make it up, but I heard that term. Find a hero or shero.
Right.
So a hero is obviously a male hero that you admire, and a shero is obviously a female hero that you admire. So it doesn't even have to be anyone that you know. It could be somebody in politics or somebody in Hollywood, or find a person that you want to emulate and you want to learn from and understand from. So I've done that over the course of my life. They've changed over the course of progression of my business, but I always find people who have done what I want to do, but have done it better, faster, more successfully, whatever it is. So
wow.
Yeah.
How do you pair up the one of the first things you said and that thing, which I agree with completely, by the way, but you said earlier you have to be yourself.
Yes.
Don't try to be somebody else.
Yes.
And then you also are looking at people that you see that you respect or want it to be like. What's the perfect pairing of that? Is it looking at sort of like their success vehicle and trying to make that happen?
Great question. Because you're right. Because when I probably shouldn't use the word emulate, because you don't want to be just like that person.
Yeah, sure, no.
But what I do when I find a hero or shero is I say, okay, what have they done that I want to do? And then I figure out the steps that they got there. But you've still got to be true to yourself. You got to find your own style, your own personality, and then you got to be honest with who you are as well. So so I think you follow the goals of how they've gotten to where they are.
I think that's a great point. And the best analogy I can think of, and my producer Frank and I were talking about this one time, I've done a lot of sales training over the years, and to do sales training, you run out and do sales presentations, and people would sometimes say, I'm just going to say exactly what you're saying. And I would always say, no, be yourself. You don't have to say exactly what I'm saying. Now, you might want to get to the same sales tally that I'm at, or even the same recognition for that sales, but you're not going to get there exactly the same as I did. So I think you can still apply it and just look at it more like, I want to be on that level, if you will. I might not be using the best word there, but I want to be doing that thing, but I'm going to do it authentically to myself to get there. So maybe that's the perfect little pairing.
Yes, that sounds great.
I think I just made number 6.
Good. I'll write that down. Thank you.
Well, that's really great stuff, Natasha, and I think it's things that all companies can apply, and you certainly done with your business, very successful business, and even if you're too humble to say it, I'm going to tell you, it's a successful business. We've checked you out, and what do you think is something, if you could just kind of summarize, going back to yourself in your sophomore year of college, and maybe some things haven't, are not on the track, and you know that now, but you didn't know it then. What would you tell yourself if you go back in time?
Just figure out what you love to do early, and then find a way to make it happen.
Yeah.
I would tell myself, figure it out early, focused, and start planning earlier.
Yeah, and stop pulling for the Cowboys. That's probably... I'm kidding. No, that's awesome. Well, Natasha, been very good information for me today. I think the viewers hopefully got a lot of stuff from this. And tell us a little bit about how we can find more about you and your business online.
Yeah, I have a website, inhannalaw.com.
Okay.
And, it tells you everything we do, real estate, litigation, and all about our team. We have an amazing team. I've got employees that have been with me forever, and we're here if you need anything.
Wow, you know what? And a thing you just said is so important. You talked about employee retention and how you keep people around. So you obviously have a great culture. And of course, if we were doing a culture discussion today, that would be a whole other show, right?
For hours. I love my team.
You know what? We'll have to have you back on here because I do think it's important. How do you maximize the team? And I talk a little bit about leader mentality, as you can see. And I believe there's a leader mentality that can happen throughout an organization. And these are the things I like to talk about. So we'll have to have you back on to talk about that sometime.
Thank you.
Very cool. Well, Natasha, thanks for being on the show.
Pleasure and honor to be here.
Absolutely. And I do want to say, there's a little quote that came to my mind, and I thought about your mom while you were talking. And Ralph Waldo Emerson, he said, "Do not follow where the path may lead. Go instead where there is no path and leave a trail."
Oh, I love it.
Man, how powerful is that?
Perfect.
So I want to leave everybody with that as you're going on through your day and you're thinking about what your next steps are. And you can look at the successes in the world, but be your own success and blaze a trail. And this has been Rob Clemens with the Leader Mentality Show. Make sure to like and share us. We'll see you guys next time.